Welcome to The Eternal Quest. I'm Paul Meyer. In today's program we explore, once again, perhaps life's greatest mystery, death. In an earlier program we looked at reincarnation, the possibility that after death some part of us returns again to the physical. Throughout history the human mind has conjured up images of an afterlife. The Egyptians built their pyramids to house the spirits of their dead. Christians believe in heaven and hell. Tibetan Buddhists believe that the death transition was important enough to make a very complete study of it. And in the 8th century, the great Buddhist master Padmasambhava was the first to put the Tibetan Book of the Dead, or Bardo Thodol, into writing. It was from this ancient work that author and lecturer Anton Grosz drew most of the material for his book, Letters to a Dying Friend, the subject of today's program. However, the motivation for writing Letters to a Dying Friend was a personal one. Anton Grosz was discussing with a personal friend his interest in the near-death experience. However, his friend, like many of us, was at best skeptical and at worst downright disbelieving. Unfortunately, the day after the book was finished, Grosz's friend suddenly died. However, whether death comes with or without warning, we have a chance to prepare for it. For many of us, our religious upbringing prescribes what we are to believe about life after death. But for many of us, this prescription, I'm afraid, offers a little less than we want to know. Grosz's friend never had the opportunity to benefit from the ideas presented in this book, but perhaps you and I can learn a little more about what might await us on the other side.
Life can be so gay if you sing your troubles away. Keep your sunny side up, up high, the side that gets blue. If you have 9 suns in a row, baseball teams make money, you know. Keep your funny side up, 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 let your laughter ring.
Peter Donatelli was a good friend of mine. He was a beautiful man, and for a number of years we sang together in a barbershop quartet. We traveled around the country making music, telling jokes, making people happy, having a good time ourselves. And in a lot of the time that we spent together, we discussed things that were on our mind, things that we found of interest. For me, a lot of those subjects revolved around death return experiences that people had been reporting coming back from clinical death, proving that there was life beyond the body. Peter wouldn't listen to any of that. When you can bring back something, scientific proof, when you can bring back something in physical form that you can give to me, then I'll listen, he would say. Unfortunately, Peter died before I was able to put together the material in a way that I thought he would understand and accept. And that is the reason why I have written Letters to a Dying Friend.
Dear friend, I hear you are dying, and I'd like you to understand what is about to happen. First of all, you must know that you are not alone. We are all dying. Yet even though death is inevitable, it is merely a physical thing, and so it only affects things that are physical. But life is more than a physical thing. What power in the heart of a seed can make it grow into a tree? Is a person less human if she is old and feeble? Where is love really hidden? Can anything truly buy happiness if it is not already inside you? Aren't you always you?
For the very first time in the history of the world, both the Eastern mystical intuition and the Western scientific logic have come together to show that indeed there is life beyond the body. In 1975, Dr. Raymond Moody wrote a book called Life After Life, which discussed the death return experiences of 150 people who had been resuscitated from medical death, from clinical death, and had come back to say, hey, you're not going to believe what happened to me, but. And they all told stories of experiencing something that they hadn't expected to find and that they really couldn't relate to anyone in terms that seemed to make sense. Dr. Moody called those experiences near-death experiences. He reasoned that they were near death and not death experiences themselves, since the person came back. But it's interesting, our definition of death has changed over the years, and death itself is not a constant. Go back in your mind to the first time someone was saved and resuscitated from drowning. A victim is dragged up on the shore, someone gives mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, the person breathes again. Now, the very first time that happened, there's no question in my mind that people went running into the village saying, he's been raised from the dead. They raised someone from the dead. Well, what happened was that our definition of death changed. Not breathing no longer counted. Your heart had to stop beating. The only trouble with that is we learned how to jumpstart the heart. And so now your heart not beating doesn't count as death. Now we go to brain waves and we go to all kinds of electrical impulses, but these are not the limits either. The limit is a temporary one based on what medical science can do in keeping the body alive while the consciousness of the individual is no longer inside it. And so the people who have separated from their bodies and have come back to tell about it are indeed not experiencing near-death experiences, but truly a death return experience. The separation from the body of consciousness, you see, is what is actually the death process. And if medical science can learn to keep the inanimate body alive for even longer, they will get even more detailed pictures of what is happening on the other side of the veil that we call death.
All those stories of life beyond death, those first-hand accounts of existence beyond the body which paralleled each other and led to the scientific community's rethinking of the very basis of life and reality, have something else in common as well. The vast majority of death return experiences describe with awe and wonderment scenes directly out of the Bardo Thoro, a mystic Tibetan book written 1,200 years ago on the other side of the world.
The death experience occurs when an individual's consciousness separates from their bodies. A death return experience is one where that body has been resuscitated either through external assistance from a medical team or due to natural healing process of one form or another. The first thing that will be experienced by someone, let's say in a hospital room, if they have an out-of-body experience, a death experience, will be that they will find their consciousness viewing the scene from a different place. They may be looking down from underneath the ceiling, below the ceiling, seeing their body. They will be aware of everything that's going on around them. An experience that a lot of people have had is the tunnel, a long black tunnel which leads to a light, a very bright light. And the most exciting thing about this is that this tunnel and the light at the end of it is perceived as being gentle, as being love, as being the most all-encompassing, compassionate feeling that one could imagine. I would share with you that I myself have had that experience and have found at that moment to be in the presence of the most beautiful, loving consciousness I could ever possibly conceive of. A consciousness that, for want of a better name, one could call God. Many people will also have visions of their own idea of perfection. Many people have seen Jesus Christ. Many Easterners have seen the Buddha. Others have seen Krishna or Rama. Each person seeing the physical form of their own idea of God, their own idea of perfection. Now, in all cases of death return experience, the person has come back to their body. In some cases, they have visualized and seen bridges, and they've known that if they will cross that bridge, they will not come back. They hesitate for a moment, and they're suddenly drawn back into their body. Sometimes the being that they have met says to them, "It's not time, go back." And they do go back, but they have had an experience that has changed their life. You see, everyone who's had a death return experience, it has changed their life. And this is one of the ways you can tell if someone is truly telling a story they experienced or whether they're making it up. When you touch that core of perfection, when you realize that all people, no matter what they look like, no matter what their beliefs are, all have the same core of life, then you truly understand that we are all one. And then indeed, you have to live your life differently. It can't be any other way.
The body which you will now have is a thought body, sometimes called an astral body. It is a thought body because all the forms which you are about to see and experience are your own thought forms. It is important that you recognize this fact and know that you are in the world of the spirit. Once you do, you can control the visions. Now can you see the value of the meditation exercises you have been doing lately?
Each individual is a composite of all of the factors that go to make up his or her personality. You are a combination of your body, your possessions, your thoughts, your ideas. But all of these are adjectives. They aren't really who you are. When you die, your body and your possessions fall off. You don't take them with you. But your consciousness is still there. Your personality is still there. Your thoughts, your emotions are still there. And these travel with you into the next world, into the space that the Tibetans call the bardo. As a result, if you're looking for certain things, expecting certain things, you will find things and see things and experience things that other people do not. They'll find something else. They'll find things to go with their personalities. It's just the way it works. You see, that is a thought world. You create your own reality in the world we experience after the death of our bodies. It's like a dream. In a dream, it's all very real to you. If you're being chased by a pit bull and he's running after you and you trip and fall, and he jumps for you, you'll wake up, oh my God, I'm glad it was just a dream. In the world beyond the death of the body, there is no waking up, you see. You must be in control of that thought. There's a term that's called, known as lucid dreaming. It is the ability to control your dream. Now take that pit bull. If you are not in control, the pit bull comes and gets you. Your mind has created its own nightmare. And it's very, very real. If you are able to have a lucid dream, if that pit bull comes after you, you can say to yourself, wait a minute, this is my dream. I'm controlling what's happening here, and you can, in your mind's eye, put a fence between you and the pit bull. Or you can turn him into a chicken. Or you can get your pet polar bear to, beat him up for you. All of these things you can do if you're in control of your dream. The work which Padmasambhava put together is known in Tibetan as the Bardo Thodo. Bardo is the space in between, or intermediate state. It represents that space to which the consciousness will go after leaving the body. It's neither a heaven nor a hell. It's a space in between, sort of a way station. We really don't have a term for that in the English language, and so I've reintroduced the term bardo, and I think it probably makes more sense to refer to that space, that intermediate space, as the bardo than anything else. Thodo means book. Simple as that. And so you have now what he wrote called the Book of the Space in Between, or Book of the Intermediate State, which really doesn't say very much to Westerners, but said an awful lot to Tibetans who knew that there was life beyond the body. We in the West are left alone after we've died. The clergy is at our side, but once we have left the body, the sheet is pulled up, and they turn to comfort the family, which is all well and good, but we're left alone to, go who knows where. In Tibet, where they've made a study of this, made a science of it, the dying person has a lama at his bedside who knows exactly what is happening, who knows that they can hear after they've left their body, who can point out the signs as we slowly separate. It's not a sudden thing. You don't separate from your body like that unless you're in a major accident of some sort. It's a slow process, and little by little, if you're aware, you can tell in a natural death how this facility is being lost, how this faculty is slowing down, how this separation is occurring, and a transition, a natural transition, can occur. The Tibetan knows all this and has the Lama to help them. The Lama will even gently but firmly press certain muscles and blood vessels on the side of the neck to allow the person to remain conscious and aware, out of pain, but conscious and aware, so that they know what's happening. Here in the West, we are drugged, we're hooked up to machinery, we have no one to guide us through, and we don't know what's going to happen next. This is the main reason why I wrote Letters to a Dying Friend. We in the West should know just as much about what's going to happen next as those in the East. The modern man and woman should not be separated from the reality of his own and her own life after death because we have been unable to put together information that has been around for thousands of years. The Tibetan Book of the Dead describes the bardo as it would be viewed and experienced by a Tibetan, with certain deities and demons and characters and a whole cast which is different from what we would expect to find here and what a Westerner would experience and what a Westerner would think of. We each approach our religions in a different way, with forms and concepts and belief systems that are comfortable for us. Spirituality, the fact that we are all one, that we are all motivated by emotion, that our lives are guided by those things which are the most important to us. These are universal truths. And the same way in this plane, we are motivated by those things which are important to us and they create our lives, so in the world of thought, which exists beyond the body, we are led to those areas which are based on our own thought. Very often, the body is a valuable and wonderful inhibitor. We may think things that we're sorry we've thought, oh, I wish that person were, oh my, you get angry, you hope for things, and then afterwards you say, oh my God, did I really? I'm sorry, I didn't wish that sort of thing. I wouldn't want that really to happen. But because we hadn't physically done anything about that, nothing indeed has taken place on the physical plane. But in a world of thought, where your thoughts create the reality, then what we think about is very important. Hence, the person who is able to lucid dream, the person who meditates and who is able to control their thoughts can control their lives in the bardo. And this is one of the areas that Letters to a Dying Friend discusses. How do you go about doing that? Discussing meditation and how it works. Meditation is not a religious thing which is the possession of any one sect or cult or group or religion. Meditation is a scientific method of closing down the outside world, the noisy world around you, so you can find that space within you where you are one with all the universe.
I hear you are about to be reborn, and I'd like you to understand what is about to happen. Even though rebirth is only a physical thing, it is the key to your development as a completely evolved soul. But life is more than a physical thing. Here, between births, your consciousness is aware of the power in the heart of a seed that can make it grow into a tree. You know that love lives within your own heart, and that happiness is there as well, if you only know how to find it. And you know that you are always you, whether you remember it or not.
Life beyond the body is a reality for all people, regardless of their spiritual beliefs or frames of reference. Jesus of Nazareth taught that as ye sow, so shall ye reap. The Hindu, the Buddhist, believe in karma. What goes around comes around. They're the same thing, different words, but the meaning is similar. The humanity of both is there. And both refer to the fact that the main purpose of life is how we view each other and the love and the compassion that we bring to our dealings with other people. Perhaps it's best said in the introduction to Letters to a Dying Friend by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Letters to a Dying Friend is addressed to us all. Its underlying message is that we are all going to die, and with that in mind, we should now put our lives to the best use we can.
So smile away your sorrow, play the game again tomorrow. Sit up high, sunny boy, you'll get by, you'll get by. Never cry, sunny boy, please don't cry. Oh, sunny boy, don't cry.
Since the publication of Letters to a Dying Friend, much progress has been made in the study of the near-death experience. And although definite proof of a life after death is still lacking, an impressive body of data has been compiled as the number of researchers in this field continues to grow. Dr. Raymond Moody's new book, The Light Beyond, continues the work he began with his book, Life After Life, in 1976. Since this time, Dr. Moody has compiled more than 1,000 new case studies of people who experienced clinical death and survived. He also reports on the work of other researchers, One such person is Dr. Michael Grosz, a philosopher, whose work suggests a strong link between the near-death experience and the teachings of the great philosophers from Plato to Christ. Dr. Moody also reports on some of the more transcendental aspects of the NDE. People who have experienced this report that at the moment of their death, they are completely themselves, no longer just their wife's husband or their child's parent. They're just themselves. An interesting comment on the nature of consciousness. Perhaps we can benefit from their brief passage into another reality to help make this life all that it can be, not just for ourselves, but for each other. We hope you've enjoyed this program. And until next time, this is Paul Meyer for The Eternal Quest.